So a little update on the slide outs. I have a couple hours to kill. So I went and picked up my Teflon, or HDPE, high density polyethylene, I believe is what it is. Pieces, and basically what it is, it's a little coarse. I guess it has a little texture on this side and this side. Once you cut it, it's smooth, but this is basically cutting board material. And what I'm gonna do, and I have them, what are they, 30 inches-ish? 24, 30 inches, whatever they were. I'm gonna piece them together, put them on the floor, for the slide out to ride on, and I'll show you what I've got going on now. So I pulled up the one piece of flooring because it had cutouts right there for the rollers, and I'm scraping up the adhesive, and that stuff is stuck pretty well. I'm actually pretty happy with how well it sticks to the floor and the vinyl. So anyway, this guy is going to set on top of the floor when I get the floor all the way to the edge. And before, I had the floor running to about here, and I had wiper seal from here to here, and now I'm going to have floor all the way to the edge, and I'll be able to seal it, so that'll be watertight. And then this is going to go on top of that, and this bottom edge will ride on this all the way in. I have replaced the floor all the way down, and you can see the shims are setting in place, and I have the shims on this side, and that's basically not like that, like that down there, is how they're going in. All I did was shove them in to kind of hold the floor down while the glue dried. And now what I'm gonna do, or what I've been doing, is adjusting the height on this edge, on this edge and the outside edge to level the slide out. And I've been checking my gap up top to make sure that this works, and I'm actually gonna shave these down just a hair. They're 3/4 of an inch. I think I'm gonna go to about 5/8 to even the gap between the top and the bottom. This side's a little, it's like 1/8 of an inch difference, so I'm gonna go to about 1/2 an inch on the bottom. And I'm actually gonna line the bottom of the slide out. Show you that. So right now I have the aluminum composite panel on the bottom, which is fairly durable, but as I showed you before, susceptible to some serious damage if too much weight is applied in the wrong spot. So with the new guide, that's not gonna be a problem, but I still wanted to kind of seal things up and get a little tougher. So I'm gonna throw a like 16 gauge, 14 gauge sheet of aluminum sheet on the bottom, and that'll give me my abrasion factor and kind of seal it from the elements, even though this is pretty well sealed except for the one seam. So I'll overlap these, and then the seam will be down there, and it's on the bottom, and it's not gonna matter too much anyway. So the biggest thing was for abrasion. That's what's going on. It is currently cooled off a little bit, 79. It was 83, I think, today. We have a cold front coming in with some snow. And the low, let's see, it's Wednesday now. The low tomorrow night is gonna be 19 or 17. So it's gonna go from 83 degrees today, or 82, whatever it hit, to 17 within 24 hours, or maybe 30 hours, but nonetheless, holy crap. And we're getting 2 to 4 inches of snow, and is just past the first week of October. Crazy. So I can't throw any more glue down because I don't want to put anything on the floor that needs to dry in 17-degree temps, because it won't. So that's where I'm at. Well, here is what is left of me having to shave down my HDPE shims for the slide out. And this stuff is like, I don't know, it's like plastic confetti. It's pretty light, as you can see. And what I've done is I've actually shaved off, I don't know, maybe 3/16 of an inch off the thickness. And then I've also taken a bit of an angle off the edge. Let me show you. So now what I've done is, and this is exactly why the counter has to be cut, because you can see it's past, little buggers catching. It's past the frame, and obviously with the counter in place that wouldn't happen. So what I've done is I finally fixed the floor, or I finally extended the floor all the way to the edge. It originally had stopped here, and I had a piece of wiper seal that took up the spot. So now I've pulled the floor up, reinstalled new pieces, cut for the slide outs here. And what I'm gonna do is, so I have shaved, this side is 5/8 thick, that side is 1/2 inch. Just because I have an 1/8 inch difference in the openings or in the slide out heights, I'm not sure which. But to get things kind of consistent from the bottom gap to the top gap, that's what these are. So I've shaved the thickness down, and that's the mess you saw inside the garage. And I've also taken an edge off. So when this is adhered and the slide out actually gets onto this, it's not catching a hard edge. And what I'm gonna do is find my floor joists all the way through. I'm gonna epoxy this down. I actually have a special epoxy, I hope, that will glue plastic to plastic. And basically what I have to do is take a torch and break the molecular bond, that was tough for some reason, of the plastic, so that the glue, the adhesive, the epoxy will stick. So I'm gonna bolt these down. I'm actually gonna drill through and find the floor joists, drill through since they're steel, and thread them, tap and thread them, and then take a stainless steel screw, tapered head, recess it, and set them in here. And then once all these guys are in place, and I've actually had to cut the floor a little bit because part of my slide out arm comes to here, and there's a little piece that overhangs and comes here, and it was catching the floor, so I had to cut that out. And I have to cut these down. But nonetheless, when these are in place, I'm gonna actually take another one. So basically I'll have a solid edge from the slide out where it contacts the plastic all the way across. So that'll be my airtight, watertight edge. Where the arm of the slide out actually comes in a bit further, I'm gonna take this and just shove another piece in from here to here, and then screw and or glue that down as well. And that, once the slide out sits on all this, that will be airtight and watertight, and I won't need a seal. That'll be my seal and the guide. So I'm hoping that'll work out pretty well. That's where I'm at right now. Let's see how this goes. So this slide out is pretty well set and ready to go on the floor, except for the squeakiness. You can see when it slides out over this guy that it actually forms a solid seal, so I don't get any air coming through. It's really nice. I put a few more screws in than I thought, and I will show you the epoxy here in a minute that I used. And to break the bond on the HDPE plastic, which is obviously this stuff, I just took a torch to it, this guy, heated up for, I don't know, just kind of ran it over the edge until you could see it kind of like, I want to say liquefied, but the color changed a little bit. So I knew I had enough heat on it. And the driver's side is out and screwed and glued, and I have it out still so I can get the Phylon off on that side. But the slide out guides for the floor are in, and they work great. Contact is just about 100%. There's a couple little tiny like 16th inch gaps that run, you know, in a difference in either the floor or the slide out, and I think things will adjust over time and seal that. So I told you I would show you the epoxy, and I figured I'd get to it before I ran out because I'm almost done. Both slide out guides are in on the floor, and this is the stuff. It's West Systems G-Flex epoxy, and I think this is the 655. And they have one of these that is thickened, which this one is, and one that's more like a liquid. This one goes on like a bit of a paste, which is what I needed. So the other thing I'm gonna be using this for is when I get the walls and ceiling done, my guides for the corners up in here are gonna be the same HDPE plastic that I have down on the floor. Yeah, a little squeaky. But yeah, that's the floor done. Sorry, the guides for the slide out done. I've had to make a couple of adjustments, a little notch there, a little notch there for a couple screws that were touching. But I'm gonna use the same guides on the roof, so when it goes up and down, it'll actually ride on the aluminum trim on the outside. I'm doing a test to see how the HDPE will actually bond to the aluminum. So I'm gonna heat up the plastic, break the bond of the plastic. So what I'm doing is testing the bond of the plastic, because what I specifically wanted that epoxy for was to weld plastic to plastic, which is basically the floor is vinyl, but that's just another plastic. And it's worked great. Those things are, I'm assuming, on for life, and I've got them screwed into the floor joist, so they're not going anywhere. But I wanted to see how the plastic would adhere to aluminum, so I'm gonna try that, and that's what we're doing next. So stay tuned, let's see how that goes.